Okay, so continuing on. So as we said, I want to encourage informant to expand on their answers and give as many details as possible that you are recording, either writing it down or, as we said, recording it through a tape recording device. And you want to use words like describe and tell me about, please expand on, use member checking to be able to better understand what it is they're saying, because they'll give you more information that than they might have previously. And more than anything, don't move on to a new topic until you feel like you've completely explored the informant's knowledge on the question at hand. You want to use their own language to ask new questions. If you have jargon that's associated with your questions, for example, if I was talking to somebody at the universities and it was the general public, I probably wouldn't use the term IHE, Institution of Higher Education. They don't know what that means. We want to use language that they're used to, like college or university. We all know that public schools are the worst about acronyms. You don't want to use an acronym to start out with. You could describe that and then say, okay, moving forward, the acronym I'll use for that just to make this easier is this. And you also want to use their language and make sure that you understand what their language means in terms of the words that they're using to describe it. If you can do that, that'll make them more comfortable and they'll reveal more information. So when you are done with your interview, kind of a gauge of success is if you look at your transcript and 80% of what's written down is somebody else's words, then you've been fairly successful with what you've tried to accomplish. When we run into problems with gathering information in this format, the problems tend to be with the interviewer, not the person being interviewed. There are some people that are going to be difficult to interview no matter what you try to do with that, and there's really not a lot you can do with that. But that's something that we would call an outlier. By and large, they ought to, if you set this up right, will be willing to participate. If they came to whatever session that you set up, or if they agreed to do this, by and large, they're going to agree to go through this and give you the information that they have. You need to be able to think on the fly in terms of being able to rephrase information or rethink the questions. If they don't understand the question that you asked, simply restating the same question again is not going to work. So you kind of need to think of a way to rephrase it or perhaps give an example. The demographics. We always want to ask whether we're doing it like this or we're using a survey. You always want to put the demographics at the end, especially if they're very private. The reason for that is you don't want to shock them into not participating. If you ask them up front a question that they find fairly controversial, if you're asking them a question about pro-life and they have strong feelings about that, you may want to be able to get that information, but you really need to put that at the end. Because what happens with that is two things. One, it shocks them if you ask them something that's very, very private. And they're going to think to themselves, my gosh, if he's starting with this, what's the next thing? The other thing that can happen is it will cause them to suppress. They'll get so focused on the fact that you asked them something so controversial, so private, they won't do anything else, and you've lost them for the rest of the interview. So there's nothing wrong with collecting some demographics, but get all the information first. If they refuse to participate with the demographic part at the end, that's okay. You've still got all this other information. As I said at the beginning, don't ask why questions, and try not to do that very much. That implies there's a factual answer. They're going to feel like that they need to give you the right answer, whatever that might be. Or they're going to be defensive. If you ask any kid, why did you do something? They're going to say, because this. They get defensive. They got to defend their position. So you can ask something else like, what was happening at the time that you felt this way? What were you trying to accomplish? When you wanted your child to receive better feedback from their teachers, how did you go about doing that? What circumstances led to you doing that? instead of asking, why did you go ask for more help? That even saying that, why did you do that, is going to give the wrong impression. So what we're going to do with this is when we meet on the next Saturday, is we're going to go through these exercises. I'm going to show you some examples of how to do this and utilize each of these pieces, because this is one of those things that this is the part of the people business that we just need to be able to sit together at the same room at the same time and go through these.